Chapter 4. The Lord Procurator Huldar knows best. It was a universally accepted truth in this small town, one of many on Kirith. Scion of a noble family before such distinctions had been abolished, he had set his cousins and relatives in positions of power among the brethren, and he ruled them all with a benevolent, if at times ruthless hand. Loyal to no one except himself and the Pangistri, he knew what the people of Kirith wanted, and calmly but resolutely went out and got it for them. Some said it was his childhood that had made him so strong-minded and superior. Once, when Miril's tongue had been loosened by too much wine, he had revealed how Huldar had been bullied constantly as a boy. With a determination almost shocking in a child, he had exercised and built his muscles until no one dared bully him again. Nor did he neglect his mind. He would spend late nights reading all the records in the library, to the exclusion of social contact with others his own age. Under the influence of the wine, Miril revealed that he suspected Huldar knew even more than he. Huldar's devotions had attracted the attention of the Pangistri themselves, and Huldar asked that he be considered for acceptance into the Brotherhood of Kandasi. They refused, explaining that he would better serve them as their ambassador, guiding the Kirithons in their everyday life and ensuring that their wishes were carried out to the full. Over the years, Huldar had grown fat with power, but there was still a dark and strong handsomeness about his face, though his skin was now sallow and his beard streaked with grey. He still ruled Kirith with his own brand of fairness. Everyone had all they could wish for, and some, particularly if they were young and especially attractive, had more. All these thoughts were going through Raphael's mind as he waited outside Huldar's apartments, where Revna, proud of her position as Huldar's personal assistant, had left him like a naughty schoolboy summoned before the headmaster. Raphael reflected on the Inquisition and inevitable lecture to come. This wouldn't be the first time he had been called up in front of Huldar, he thought glumly. There had been the incident with the stink bomb when he was a child, and later the time when he had spied on Huldar and two of his special friends. But life could be so dull at times. Kirith needed a little bit of excitement every now and then. The door to Huldar's personal office opened, and Raphael was called inside. Huldar was seated at his desk, a finely polished piece of mahogany, and was engrossed in paperwork. As Raphael entered, his feet sank into the plush carpet. Huldar looked briefly, and the glow from the computer screens at his side bathed his face in a ghastly green light. He indicated for Raphael to sit down in front of the desk, and continued with his work. Refusing to be upset by this studied indifference, Raphael occupied himself by looking around the room. The wall behind Huldar was a huge bookcase, filled with ancient volumes, papers and computer disks. Paintings covered another wall, together with studies, some tasteful, some much less so of the female form. A third wall was occupied by a series of video screens showing various parts of the town. Of the views, he recognised, among others, the Great Library, the small bay to the east where the Pangistri disembarked from their home, the sea cliffs looking out to Kandasi, and the forbidden Darkfell. Most of the fourth wall was taken up by a marble fireplace, in which burned a massive wood fire which scented the room with a sickly sweet fragrance, making him feel light-headed. It was a curious mixture of styles. If he had learnt the right vocabulary from Ace, Raphael would have called it well gross and tacky. He became aware that the scratching of pen on paper had stopped. Huldar looked up at the boy with the affectionate eyes and welcoming smile of the crocodile at the first sight of Captain Hook. "Yes, I do like my comforts, Raphael," said Huldar, and put his papers away to one side. "A real log fire is so much more friendly, don't you think?" He clasped his hands and leaned forward to look into Raphael's eyes. The boy caught the distinct smell of alcohol on his breath. "You have caused us a great deal of trouble and concern, Raphael," he said. His voice was critical but not unkind. "This is not the first of your secret midnight excursions. All on Kirith are free, and we do not set rules. But we do expect cooperation, and we only ask, that no one goes outside the boundaries of the town at night without our permission. But why? There are dangers in the forest and fells. A man may stray and lose his way. The wilds of Darkfell run foul with poisons. Hulda spoke as though to a little child. Why did you leave the town, Raphael? Everything is provided for you here, isn't it? Hulda's kind manner disconcerted Raphael. Of course, Lord Hulda, and I'm grateful. But the stars are much more beautiful outside. I just wanted to be alone. In the middle of a storm? Raphael frowned. Now that he mentioned it, it did seem a lame excuse. What had possessed him to go out on such a night? Well, I wasn't the only one, he blurted out in his defence. Hulda's eyes narrowed, searching into Raphael's own. There was Ace and the doctor, he said quickly, judging it wiser not to mention the other figure he had seen on the shore. Hulda leaned forward and grabbed Raphael by the wrist. He winced at the older man's powerful grip. You are not to associate with the doctor and his companion. Do you understand? The kindly manner was gone. They are disruptive elements, alien to our work here on Kirith. And there was Darian, Raphael blurted out as the memory suddenly returned to him. What happened to Darian? Why did I forget him? For long seconds Hulda said nothing and continued to stare at Raphael. His nails digging deep into the flesh, he increased his grip on the boy's arm. When he finally spoke, Raphael was surprised to notice a slight tremor in Hulda's threatening tone. Darian has accepted the greatest honour of all, and become an acolyte of the Pangistry. He is not to be spoken of again. Do so and you die. For the first time in his life, Raphael was afraid. Of course, Lord Procurator, he stammered. Hulda relaxed his grip, leant back in his chair and smiled. Good. We may not always understand the ways of the Pangistry, but all their decisions are for our ultimate benefit. Now, if we understand each other, you may go. As soon as Raphael left, Hulda broke out in a cold sweat. He hurried over to the bank of video screens on the wall facing him. As he approached, one of the screens lit up instantly, revealing the face of a stern old man. Your report, Hulda, demanded Rep 2. The change in Hulda's manner was remarkable. Normally self-assured, he stumbled over his words whenever he faced a member of the Pangistry, even at a distance over a video link. Raphael has broken through your conditioning, my lord, he said in a tone which suggested that he held himself wholly responsible for the fact. He is beginning to remember. What should I do? Expecting, at the very least, an angry outburst, he waited for Rep 2's reply. Instead, Rep 2 paused for a moment, considering the matter. When he addressed Hulda again, there was a slight smile on his face. The boy shows great imagination and courage, he said. He may be of use to us. For the moment, let him walk free, but take care that he keeps his memories to himself. The image faded from the screen. Hulda let out a sigh of relief. Loyal as he was to the Pangistry, they were nevertheless an unpleasant reminder that he was not the absolute ruler of Kirith Town. Yet without them he would be nothing. The deal he had struck with them was advantageous enough, assured power over all his subjects in return for his recruiting the best and most talented Kirithons into their service. If only the Pangistry weren't so obviously superior. They had even known about the arrival of the Doctor and Ace before Hulda's spies. Sometimes Hulda wondered why the Pangistry were so eager for new entrants into the Brotherhood of Kandasi, but he valued his position too much to ask such dangerous questions. Ace, on the other hand, was doing nothing but asking questions. For once, she was following the Doctor's advice and was looking for Raphael. Already something of a minor celebrity in the small town, she found most people eager to talk to her and ready to offer any help they could. Finally, she was told that Raphael was at the council house in the presence of the Lord Procurator Hulda. There was no need for security in Kirith, and Ace wandered into the spectacular building without anyone attempting to stop her. As she turned a corner, she walked straight into Hulda himself, causing him to drop the sheaf of files he was carrying. I'm sorry, she said as she bent down to help him pick up the papers. I wasn't looking where I was going." Huldar dismissed the incident with a wave of a finely manicured hand. "No need to worry, my dear. No harm done," he said, offering her his sweetest smile. He looked her up and down with interest, and Ace felt uncomfortable under his gaze. It's rare that we have such a pretty young thing about the place. "He's making fun of me," was her first thought. "Compared to the rest of the women in this town, I might as well look like the back end of a bus." She looked behind her, just to make sure he wasn't talking to someone else. "Do you mean me?" She grinned in embarrassment, and jumped as he took hold of her arm. "Don't be frightened, my dear," he continued confidently, a lascivious leer on his face. "Might I suggest that we go elsewhere to continue our conversation? You are such a pretty young thing after all." Ace wrested her arm from his grasp, her indignation rising to the surface. "Now look here, scum features," she hissed through clenched teeth. "You lay another finger on me, and I'll make sure you won't be able to do anything with any pretty young things ever again. Get the picture?" She raised a tightly clenched fist to make her point. Hulda stepped back, less in fear than in amazement. No one had ever refused the advances of the Lord Procurator before. Then he smiled almost triumphantly and rubbed his hands in glee. Such fiery spirit, such aggression. Here was prize sport indeed. Ace turned gratefully as she heard the sound of approaching footsteps. It was the unpleasant young woman she had seen earlier this morning. Revna stopped and looked first at Huldar, and then at Ace, swiftly assessing the situation. Then she turned back to Huldar, nodding him a greeting. "My lord, your presence is requested by the Lord Reptu again," she announced primly. Huldar continued to stare at Ace as he replied, "I have much to tell them." As he left, he bowed in mock courtesy to Ace and winked suggestively at her. "I'll see you later, my dear." "Not if I see you first, Bilgebrain," Ace thought, and as soon as he had turned the corner, she asked Revna, "Who's the prize creep, then?" "The Lord Procurator Huldar," she said coldly, and then hissed, "What do you think you're doing here? Can't you mind your own business?" "Hey, if that's all that's bothering you, Huldar's all yours," she said lightly, attempting to defuse the situation. The moment she had spoken, she realised she had said the wrong thing. "You know exactly what I mean," Revna continued in a harsh whisper. "You're doing Raphael no good, filling his head with new ideas. You'll only make him restless and put him in more danger." "I don't believe it. She's acting like a jealous schoolgirl." "Look! It might have escaped your notice, but me and the Professor saved your boyfriend from drowning last night." "He's not my boyfriend." "And as for fancying him, you've got it all wrong. He's not my type. He's too pretty for one thing. You can keep him. And Hulda as well if you like," she added viciously and stormed off in anger. "Where are you going?" "To find Raphael," she called back, and found to her delight that she didn't care what Revna thought at all. 2 huge battlecruisers stealthily approached the tiny brown planet, hanging defenceless and alone in the blackness of space. Beeping messages passed between the 2 engines of death as they each coordinated their strategies, assessing the best positions from which to attack. Suddenly, from the far side of the planet, a posse of small red flying creatures appeared, their wings waving and flapping furiously in the airless zero gravity. Splitting into 2 formations, they clustered around each of the 2 spaceships, which panicked and attempted to retreat. Chattering excitedly to each other in the soundless void, the flying creatures closed in on the trapped craft, eating through their force-field defences and into their metal hulls. The universe exploded in a flash of brilliant light as the creatures devoured their prey. Beaming with satisfaction and self-congratulation, the Doctor took his hand off the joystick of the desktop computer and grinned. "My game again, Mirel." The older man's face was set firm, still entranced by the game he had just lost to the Doctor. One of his colleagues walked past them, looking disapprovingly at Mirel, and he instantly remembered where he was. "A fascinating application of the computer, Doctor, but hardly the use for which it was made," he protested. The doctor patted him on the back like a long-lost friend. "Quite right," he said. "But what's life without a little divertisement from time to time, eh? The Pangistri would not approve." "I'm quite sure they wouldn't. But sometimes it's fun breaking the rules," said the doctor, deliberately leading the old man on. "You could easily program the computer like I did, couldn't you?" Morrell shook his head. "The computer performs the purpose it was made for, to teach and to provide information, nothing else." "So you can operate the computer but you can't program it," thought the doctor. He let the matter drop and then said casually, "The Pangistri, I'd like to hear more about them. Anyone who could provide all of this must be a very advanced and cultured people indeed." He looked around him at his surroundings. Early this morning, Morrell had eagerly escorted him to his seminary's library, the largest of its kind in Kirith. It was housed in a splendid series of rooms, almost ecclesiastical in their restrained magnificence. At intervals along the walls, magnificent stained glass windows depicting mythical creatures let in the sunlight. The bulk of the library's collection was stored in a huge circular chamber, the size of a small cathedral and built on several levels. Teachers, in their formal dress of scarlet tunic and boots, sat at long banks of desks, studying ancient manuscripts or digesting the information relayed to them by desktop computers. Hidden lighting suffused the entire room with a warm and soothing glow, and the air buzzed with the soft murmur of study. Further reading rooms and libraries led from the main library like the spokes of a wheel. The corridors linking them were decorated with beautifully crafted sculptures, fine paintings, and restrained and tasteful experiments in abstract art. The doctor had been in many libraries. He had lent his reader's ticket for the British Museum to Marx, advised Pope Clement on the contents of the Vatican Library, and even saved 2 plays by Aristophanes from the burning of the library in Alexandria. But the beautiful surroundings, the wealth of knowledge available, and the diligence of those partaking of it impressed even him. "The Pangistri are indeed an advanced race, Doctor," answered Morrell, with a respect he did not accord the brethren, the doctor noted. "They are our providers and our teachers, our benefactors and our ideal. They provide us with the food we eat, with the technology and comforts we need to live our lives to their greatest fulfillment." "Yes, I know all that, Morrell. But who are they? Where do they come from?" Morrell led the doctor out of the main library and into a smaller reading room, where they disturbed a young seminarian reading a handsomely bound volume. On seeing the doctor and Morrell, he stood up nervously and left the room. "Officially, he shouldn't be here at all," explained Morrell. "This room is reserved for the senior teachers such as myself. I should report him to the brethren." "But I see you do bend the rules occasionally, Morrell," the doctor observed wryly. "No one should be hindered in the pursuit of knowledge," he replied flatly, but a common bond had been forged between the two men. Morrell pulled out the drawer of a filing cabinet and took out a laser disc which he inserted into a small video screen on the far wall. The screen lit up, revealing a series of stylized moving images. A sleek, streamlined spaceship landing on a deserted plain, a band of tall, aristocratic people disembarking. 3,833 years ago the Pangistri came to our world, intoned Morrell, awkwardly reciting the words he and all Kirithons had first learnt in the schoolroom. With them they brought all the learning of their home planet, which had been destroyed in solar flares. At that time the people of Kirith were a backward race, primitive in their learning, forever scavenging the forest for food. The scene on the screen changed to one of a group of swarthy, dark-eyed and emaciated people, armed only with clubs and knives. Their lumbering gait, protruding jawlines and broad foreheads reminded the doctor of the early hominids he had encountered on the plains of Africa over 1 million years before the dawn of human civilization. These creatures were confronting a large but bewildered beast, obviously the intended meal of the day. The doctor winced as the creature was brutally cudgelled to the ground. All death disturbed him, even if, like this, it was part of the natural order of things. The Pangistri banished the stalking beast to the furthermost reaches of our planet. As we could no longer feed on the meat of the beast, they provided us with Zavat. The doctor showed interest, and Morrell explained. Zavat is our main food source which, together with the fruits and seeds which fall from the trees, provides us with all the sustenance we need. The doctor felt a certain grudging respect for the Pangistri as he considered the consequences of that simple action. The first need of any species is to find enough food to eat. From that basic requirement comes inevitably the skill of hunting, and from that comes the crafting of weapons, first of defence and survival, and then of war and aggression. The bomb that fell on Hiroshima was but the direct descendant of the bone the first caveman had used to kill his prey. By freeing Kirith from the tyranny of hunger, the Pangistri had effectively abolished war and helped the planet leapfrog many thousands of years of painful evolution. It was no small achievement. "So the Pangistri care for all your needs, teach you their technology and its application," summarised the doctor, eager to be spared any more of Miril's home movies. "But what do they get in return?" The picture on the screen was replaced by one of Kandassi Island. The Pangistri ask only for solitude on Kandassi, where they pursue their studies in peace. Occasionally some of our more gifted citizens elect to become members of their brotherhood, helping them in their work. "Which is?" Miril smiled. "That is their business, Doctor." "Them that ask no questions don't get told no lies," thought the doctor, but said instead, "That sounds a very good deal indeed." "Of course, and we're all grateful for the munificence of the Pangistri, but—" Miril approached his subject warily. "Yes?" "There is much we can learn from your knowledge and experience," said Miril. "You come from beyond our world, Doctor, out from among the stars. It is a place we can never go to. We are trapped on our planet." "Surely with all this technology you can—" Miril shook his head. "Not even the Pangistri can leave. No craft can escape the gravitational pull of our world." Miril looked greedily at the doctor, and there was a peculiar disconcerting light in his eyes. "Like the star travellers before you, Doctor, you must soon join the Pangistri. But before then, share your knowledge with me. Tell me of the other worlds you have seen, the secrets hidden in the star clusters. Tell me the power of time." The doctor froze, suddenly disconcerted by Miril's change from wry academic to obsessive seeker of knowledge. He gave him a curious gaze, and then paced slowly around the room. A minute passed. The doctor took a coin from his pocket and casually flipped it into the air. "I can tell you many things, Miril," he said. "I can tell you of worlds beyond wonder, and of a secret older than time. I can tell you of the nature of good and evil, the power of the human heart, and the best recipe for bread and butter pudding." He flicked the coin into the air once again, and the light from the video screen cast dark shadows about his face. "But I'll tell you only two things. Those records you've shown me are a sham. There's not a word of truth in any of them. And you, the Pangistri, and everyone else for that matter, could leave this planet whenever you want. You've been tricked, duped, Miril. All your people have. The Pangistri need you much more than you need them, and I intend to find out why."